What's up guys, my name is Sean from White Jade Productions, and if you don't mind, if you enjoy this video, do like, subscribe, and comment because this video is purely about clarity, honesty, and truth, and that's probably the only way that this video will help my channel is if you support it, because otherwise some of these big name brands like SmallRig might dislike it. Although I will give SmallRig a chance to redeem themselves a little bit later, but we'll get into that. This is about the SmallRig effect. Now, what do I mean by the SmallRig effect? Well, SmallRig initially started as a brand that produced good quality, reputable gear for indie filmmakers. Stuff that normally would cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars was now a fraction of the price. And a lot of this is because us filmmakers know that there is a film tag that just increases the price automatically of whatever you're buying. You want some CNC'd aluminum, not that expensive. You want CNC aluminum in the form of a cage for your camera, goes up by triple the amount. Now, this is still true even with SmallRig, Tilta, Surrey, and other similar brands like Condor Blue, but at least it's not as expensive as brands like Bright Tangerine, Ari, O'Connor, or Red. Those brands make some really expensive stuff and it's really hard to justify just purchasing that. So SmallRig came onto the scene and said, hey, we'll fix it. The problem is other brands did that too, and for SmallRig to stay competitive, they had to drop their quality. Now, originally brands like Newer were seen as low quality versions of SmallRig, but nowadays, not so much. I personally find that these other offshooting brands that seem to kind of have appeared in the last few years, like Surrey and Newer, are actually starting to produce better quality materials, gear, and overall just have better stuff than SmallRig. Now, brands like Tilta have always kind of been known as an in-between spot. They're gonna create better stuff that you know is good and better than SmallRig, but it's gonna come with a price increase. And most people were fine with that. The problem now is even Tilta gear is cheaper and better than SmallRig. But why do I say this? What proof do I have? Well, I have a list of gear from SmallRig that I have had issues with and or has broke on me, some of which almost cost me thousands of dollars in broken camera equipment. Now, I'm just gonna start with like some basic stuff. This list is in no particular order other than the order which I remembered it in. By the way, links to all of this stuff is in the description. If you guys want to check it out, read other people's reviews, that's totally fine. This video is all about transparency, and I am just one perspective in a sea of thousands or even millions. But first off, their monitor mount. Now, normally I say that SmallRig creates phenomenal monitor mounts, which I think they do. The problem is, I wanna say I paid like 20 bucks for this monitor mount, and it served me well. Up until the point where I started putting batteries in my monitor. At some point I got tired of cables and started putting batteries in my monitor, and I noticed I'm constantly having to tighten it, and it's constantly slipping, and I'm having to tighten the screws so the monitor doesn't swivel, and that's just frustrating. I don't want my monitor to be all loosey-goosey on set. I don't like that. Now, you can control it and you can tighten it however hard you want, but I shouldn't have to be retightening my monitor while on a set. And this kind of feels like a minor complaint, but I've really had issues lately with 7-inch monitors, which SmallRig claims that it supports with batteries. It doesn't. It gets loose, and I'm worried about my monitor falling and damaging my lens or other equipment on the camera because it can't support the weight of the monitor. That's a serious issue. When other equipment can get damaged, that's a problem. Now, that's not the biggest issue, but I've broken 2 ball head magic arms from SmallRig. And I mean like broken, like they no longer tighten anymore. I don't know how. I'm just putting stuff on them, and then one day, it falls and it's broken. Twice, by the way, not just once. This is another minor complaint, but they make this cold shoe thing that I actually really like and would recommend other people buy because I kind of like the design of it. It works great, but they have these rubber feet that are supposed to kind of grip onto things and they just break, which is really frustrating. So whenever you're trying to attach it to something that doesn't have an RE locating pin or some kind of locating pin, they tend to break, and that's kind of frustrating for me, although they're pretty cheap, so I guess I can't be complaining too much about that. But this is where I have an issue. I have broken not 1, but 2 SmallRig top handles, and it's the same one. And I'm gonna say the reference number, the SmallRig top handle 3765. That's the number. One of them, the grip broke entirely. I was shooting a sporting event, normal, on a mirrorless camera, not a cinema camera. We're not doing heavy weight here. Mirrorless camera, and all of a sudden the grip just pops off. It wasn't even particularly hot that day. It was like a high 80s day and the grip just decided I don't want to work anymore. I had barely had this top handle for maybe a few weeks. Very frustrating. So I super glued it back and then decided, you know what, I should probably get another one for my cinema camera. And I used it for my cinema camera for a while and it worked great. And one day the grip popped off again off the other one. So I'm like, all right, I'm throwing it on my mirrorless camera. I'm going to shoot, you know, just some documentary stuff. And I noticed it started to bend. Like actually bend. And so I'm holding it and then at some point it just bends a lot. And I was like, okay, all right, whatever. I get home from my shoot, I take it off and I'm like, okay, I can't trust this anymore. So I bend it back the other way and it just snaps in half. And this really isn't a joke. I wish I kept it so I could show you guys for the video, but I literally snapped it in half. It bent so much off of the weight of long, you know, not particularly long time use of a cinema camera, maybe a month being on a cinema camera, but it broke on my mirrorless camera. And that's the concerning part. I can't trust a top handle that isn't built well for the grip or built well for actually just holding something. It had zero support and there's a way better system. So I went and actually bought this top handle from Neatsy because I wasn't playing around anymore. I didn't want a grip, I wanted it to be comfy and I wanted no chance of it breaking and it was cheaper than the small rig handle. I'm pretty sure. I don't have the numbers straight off the top of my head, but if not, it's at least in the ballpark. Why am I paying so much for small rig when it breaks and other stuff doesn't and is arguably way better built? Something else I kind of have an issue with is this lens support. Now I do use this from time to time, but I don't love the design and it does not work with every lens. There's some lenses this doesn't work with. Small rig could have just incorporated a better design. That's an issue. Another issue I have is their base plate. It is not standard. If you've ever tried to use this with you know, any kind of dual screw system, any type of standard dovetail or red or Ari or O'Connor base plate, it doesn't work. It doesn't work with Bright Tangerine either. Now, Small Rig's point was, oh, it's universal. We are the universal cheap filmmaking accessory brand. No, they're not. Like, a base plate should be the one thing that is absolutely universal. They don't even have something that works within its own ecosystem. I looked, I couldn't find it. Everybody else was adapting, as well as their adapter for the Arca Swiss plates. That is also not universal. Incredibly frustrating. So you have to use a single screw to tighten it in. Very rough. I don't like it. It's not that you can't use either of these things because I actually do use both of them. I'm using the Small Rig Arca Swiss attachment to Manfrotto right now. But I don't put anything heavy on it. I can't put a large rig on it because I don't trust it because eventually it'll get loose. Just very frustrating. I really don't like it. Something else I've had an issue with is their 15mm rods. I've bought an extra 15mm rods for multiple rigs or whatever, and they straight up are too large or too small sometimes. Too small isn't that big of an issue. I can tighten something up. But I find that some accessories, including other small rig accessories like their follow focus, don't actually fit. And that's an issue. Now, I've mentioned broken small rig accessories like their top handle, but there are two more that really just set me off and said, hey, I'm really done with small rig accessories when they have any kind of support system. One, the follow focus. I use the follow focus as a handle. Like, I'm using it to make sure my camera's not going wonky, as I'm sure most people do. And I've not broken one, but two of them as well. I really wanted to like it because I really liked how the system worked. I liked that you could flick down the A and B stops. I really liked it, so I wanted to keep it. And so I bought a second one. Now, the first one, admittedly, I dropped on carpet. And immediately the gears started stripping and skipping and they just weren't working anymore. And so I had to throw it away. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'll get another one. I dropped it. It was my fault. The next one, I don't know what happened. I was on a shoot one day, maybe I bumped it, but it did the same thing. And on set, gear gets bumped. It gets hit. It gets, you know, just brutalized. And if I can't trust that my follow focus will work, I can't use it anymore. So my situation here is I've gone to Neewer for pretty much all of my other accessories. And I find that not only are they cheaper, but they're better quality. I use Neewer monitor mounts. They are way better. They hold your stuff. I've had zero issues with them. In fact, they're my favorite. I will link that below as well if you're looking for a good monitor mount. I also use the Neewer follow focus and matte box system. Why? Because it's cheaper and better than everything else on the market for this like small mirrorless style build. And I will use this accessories with my cinema camera as well. When it comes to non-support stuff, I'm absolutely fine you know, getting cheaper stuff, but it's still higher quality than small rig at like a fraction of the cost. So, you know, why not? Now I have one more thing that almost cost me my entire rig. Now, if you don't know, small rig makes gimbal accessories. One of them being the gimbal arm. Now, I haven't necessarily had an issue with the arm. The grip's not great, but it's an attachment for the grip that I actually had a problem with. It's their gimbal strap. I got tired of carrying around a gimbal all day and hey, I want a gimbal strap. So, you know, I'm not gonna let go of my gimbal, but you know, I'm gonna use the support to, you know, kind of just make sure that, you know, my gimbal isn't putting weight on my back and it's putting it more on my hips. I can let it rest a little. This would be great. Well, within about 10 minutes of using it, for the first time on a gig, it broke. And I didn't do anything. I'm standing there, waiting around. We're about to start filming and I have it set up, I set it down, make sure I can set it down in the tripod, legs spread out. I pick it back up, I rest a little weight, pop, it comes straight off. One of the pins just decided, you know what, it's gonna quick release randomly. The springs broke, there was no way of fixing it. I ended up throwing away the strap after trying to fix it for about a week and realized that, you know what, I'm done. That's it. I can't trust this brand with my gear. Now, I'm not saying that small rig isn't for everybody. There's stuff that works, but they have objectively lowered their quality and put risk into the consumers. I can't trust your top handles. I can't trust your follow focus systems. I can't trust your monitor mounts. I can't trust any of your grips. I can't trust any of your slings or other support systems. They either aren't compatible or have a risk to my gear and potentially my clients. There are times where I'm filming overhead of somebody. What if my monitor mount fails? What if my sling fails? What if my handles fail? I can't risk that with small rig anymore. Now, I am very aware that I'm buying cheaper gear, but cheap shouldn't mean it breaks. That's, you know, I think foolish. And ultimately, I've heard the same complaint with other people around. I have friends who have 3D printed and CNC'd their own parts because they refuse to purchase anything that was cheap anymore, not just small rig, but other brands as well. Yes, I'm digging into small rig here because that's where I've had my negative experiences. I have bought stuff from Newer that was just okay. I've bought stuff from Sure that was fine, but nothing that actually broke. Just stuff that maybe wasn't my favorite. And, you know, that is what it is. When I'm spending less than, you know, 30 bucks on a piece of metal or plastic, I expect it to not be perfect, but to break is an entirely other problem. If you have questions, leave them in the comments below. And I said I would give small rig a chance. So small rig, if you guys are watching this video, tell me that this is just old gear. Tell me that, hey, Sean, you're using old stuff. Let us send you some new stuff because that's probably the only way you're gonna change my mind at this point is if you send me some stuff, I will put it through its paces and then tell the audience on YouTube, hey, this is good or this is bad. Again, I'm just buying stuff, but so are you. I don't want other people to be at risk for their gear to get broken or just, you know, for them to be throwing money into something that's just gonna break. So I made this video. And if you're watching this point, please like and subscribe because again, the chances that other companies see this and go, yeah, we're not sending stuff to him. He's not going to review any of our gear. We don't want the heat is pretty high. And companies send me stuff fairly often. And that is how I make money on this channel. It's not easy to make these videos. So if you guys would like, subscribe, support me. If you want, you can buy my LUTs and power grades. I don't just sell LUTs. I'm not a shill. You can do that down in the description. I think you got 4 of them, but you can get the whole pack for like 10 bucks. So, you know, it's a good deal. I ain't cheap like that, you know? All right, thank you guys for watching. I think I already said like and subscribe. Until next time, I guess.